Yes, your favorite Pokemon is viable, but only if you're actually good at the game. So unfortunately, I'm kind of out of luck on that front. Look, I don't care if I went 2-6 at the World Championships, I get comedic value in videos for the rest of my life. But what about the people who did manage to make their weird Pokemon work? Or rather, what are the strangest Pokemon that fill niches that no other Pokemon can? Today, I'll explain just a few strange Pokemon that saw usage. This is going to be a shorter video because I've been super duper busy and I'm headed to London for the European International Championships today, so I'll try to get it done on time. But I'll have a follow-up coming soon with even more weird Pokemon. Let's just get right into it. If you guys enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, become a YouTube channel member, hype the video, all of that. And hey, you definitely want to subscribe because at 300,000 subscribers, I'll be ranking every bench in Lumio City. Let's just begin. There is unironically a team that saw niche usage back in Regulation H, known only as Super Monkey Ball. It was called this due to the monkey and the ball. This is pretty complex stuff, try to keep up. Now, Annihilape is already clearly a great Pokemon, almost 100% due to its signature move Rage Fist, which starts at 50 base power and increases by 50 power every time Annihilape is hit by a move. This caps out at 350 power if Annihilape is hit by 6 attacks. Typically, Annihilape will be played with a Pokemon like Mousehold to side target it and get hit by 4 beat-ups, letting it throw out a 250 power Rage Fist on turn 1. However, some Annihilape don't actually run Rage Fist, despite its absurd power. And that's because Annihilape has access to a pretty solid speed tier, a great HP stat, and the move Final Gambit, a move which sacrifices all the user's remaining HP to deal that amount of damage to the target. So if you got higher HP than the target, it's just a one-hit KO button at the sacrifice of your entire Pokemon. This set doesn't typically run Rage Fist because it's smarter to just run Shadow Claw for the immediately higher power in case Annihilape needs to hit another ghost type like Fluttermane. But what if you wanted to force your opponent to have to play the Rage Fist Final Gambit 50-50? Well, that's where Hisuian Electrode comes in, the ball to our Super Monkey. Electrode is the fastest available Pokemon in Regulation H, which allows for it to outrun Scarf Annihilape without having to sacrifice too much speed on the monkey. This means that not only Annihilape could threaten a one-shot trade with Final Gambit, but by leading with Electrode next to it, Loaded Dice Electrode can outspeed Scarf Annihilape and side target Bullet Seed to hit 4 to 5 times, letting the Scarf Ape have access to 300 power Rage Fist while outspeeding most of the Pokemon in the metagame. While not an outstandingly powerful team due to its blatant gimmick, the team creator Richard Macy did manage to go 5-3 with the team at the 2025 Louisville Regional Championships, just barely missing out on day 2. This may be the only niche that Hisuian Electrode will ever see over any other Pokemon, so let's just try to celebrate it. This channel is partnered with Gamersupps. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order Gamersupps through my link in the description down below or with code Moxie boosted at checkout for 10% off. Gamersupps is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18+ viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. In the grand scheme of things, it's hard for a fighting-type Pokemon to stand out. Keep in mind that every fighting-type Pokemon is competing with not just 1, but 2 Urshifus that are almost always the correct option for your team. I mean, they hit through Protect and crit on demand, how do you even compete with that? Passimian especially has it rough since it's not just a mid-tier fighting type, but has possibly the most generic stat spread and ability they could have given it. You know who else has these traits? Phalanx, Annihilape, and Galarian Zapdos, and all of them can do something special that Passimian cannot. So what did players do to finally make Passimian worth using? Well, Passimian actually has a second ability. This ability typically isn't used because it means that for most of a match, Passimian has no ability. Receiver is the signature ability of Passimian, which causes it to inherit the ability of a partner Pokemon which faints while Passimian was active on the field. This is typically pretty useless because it requires you to lose a Pokemon for Passimian to do anything of note. However, there was just one time where Receiver Passimian actually saw usage. The Isle of Armor DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield introduced new terrain-based moves including Rising Voltage, Expanding Force, Grassy Glide, and Misty Explosion. Misty Explosion was basically just a Fairy-type explosion that was 100 base power but would become 150 if Misty Terrain was active. A broadly useless move in doubles since Moonblast comes pretty close to being the same power as it, and it doesn't require you to sacrifice your entire Pokemon just to do it. But what if you wanted your Pokemon to faint? In Pokemon Sword and Shield, for a short time, players would pair Weakness Policy Passimian with Misty Explosion Huge Power Azumarill. Huge Power is the ability which simply doubles the user's attack stat, and the Weakness Policy gives a +2 boost to a Pokemon's offensive stats if they're hit by a super effective move. As a fighting-type Pokemon, Passimian's weak to Fairy-type moves, meaning that if Azumarill used Misty Explosion next to it, not only would this activate the Weakness Policy, but it would cause Passimian to inherit Huge Power, doubling its attack stat. This takes Jolly Passimian's 172 attack stat all the way to 688. For reference, Mega Mewtwo X can't even reach this attack stat without bulking up at least 3 times. In a single turn, Passimian could Dynamax and become a one-shotting machine, boosting its speed stat with max airstream and sweeping entire teams. This was the one and only time we actually saw Passimian usage in a VGC metagame. Also, there are 2 Super Monkeys in this video, I just realized that. Wo-Chien, what use does a Grass Dark type Pokemon have? Especially when it's in a generation that brought us 2 objectively better Grass Dark types. I really do feel bad for Wo-Chien, that's why I ran it at like every tournament ever. Does Wo-Chien have some admirable traits? Of course. That passive attack drop to the whole field is pretty useful, and access to stab on foul play is pretty sick, but beyond that, it's not really anything special. So why did 3 super handsome VGC players do so well with it at the North American International Championships? That's right, at the 2024 North American International Championships, Shiliang Tang, Justin Tang, and Marcos, Moxie boosted Perez, all managed to make Day 2 with Wo-Chien teams. The one niche Wo-Chien was able to do better than any other Pokemon is actually just keeping Kyogre alive and healthy. Kyogre's strongest move is the rain-boosted Water Spout that it's able to throw out, a move which scales in power the higher Kyogre's HP is. Kyogre is naturally super tanky, but its speed isn't super impressive, leaving it prone to taking damage before Water Spout can go off, unless the player using it has good speed control. Wo-Chien allows for Kyogre to consistently click full power Water Spouts without having to maintain any speed control for most of the match. Its ability Tablets of Ruin passively lowers all Pokemon's attack stats, making Kyogre take less damage on the physical side of things. By having Kyogre hold an Assault Vest as its item, it boosts its already massive special defense stat, meaning it's got a buff on both ends. But what keeps Wo-Chien employed here is its speed tier combined with the move Pollen Puff. Wo-Chien is able to reasonably hit a speed stat that is just 1 point above Kyogre's. This allows for it to Pollen Puff Kyogre back to full HP just before Kyogre throws out a massive Water Spout to score easy KOs. Opponents have to make the tough decision as to whether they want to try to one-shot Kyogre, which is fairly difficult with this setup, or try to deal with Wo-Chien, meaning that Kyogre gets a free turn to throw out Water Spout anyways. Shiliang Tang managed to take this strategy all the way to 5th place at NAIC, giving Wo-Chien its best result yet. Moxie Boosted managed to land at 54th place, and Justin Tang managed to finish at 58th. 3 Wo-Chien in top 64 is no joke, especially when you realize that this event had 921 total entrants. So yeah, Wo-Chien was good for just a little bit there. Rhydon continues the legacy of Gen 1 Pokemon that got cross-gen evolutions somehow just being better than them as long as they could hold a cool rock. Rhydon is yet another niche Pokemon that saw usage in Scarlet and Violet's restricted formats. Rhydon is, in a lot of cases, a perfect counter to Miraidon, with actually impressive stats for a Gen 1 Pokemon in 105 HP, 130 attack, 120 defense, and 3 other stats I'm not going to mention. Of course, Eviolite Rhydon could work, but it only really saw usage in this gen due to the fact that it can terrestrialize to Hard Wall what is possibly the strongest legendary in the game. Miraidon was a one-shotting machine thanks to its ability Hadron Engine, which boosted special attack stat as long as Electric Terrain is active, and it sets up Electric Terrain on switch-in, so, you know. With the choice specs, Miraidon could easily one-shot basically anything with Electro Drift or Draco Meteor. This is where Rhydon comes in. Not only did Eviolite Rhydon have access to Lightning Rod to redirect electric attacks into itself and have an immunity to them, but by terrestrializing to a Fairy type, it could be immune to Draco Meteor as well. The only move that Miraidon could use to bypass this was Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, and since many ran choice specs, they'd have to switch out to change their selected move. It was during this time that Rhydon would be able to Swords Dance and score massive damage with high horsepower, which could KO any Miraidon that it faced thanks to its great attack stat. This Pokemon was kind of a one-trick pony, but in a format filled with restricted Pokemon, a lot of ponies were actually viable. No, not Scrafty, Scraggy, the Scrappy Doo of the Pokemon universe. Somehow, this not fully evolved Pokemon managed to take 2nd place in a VGC major. The Thailand Master Ball Cup is basically the qualifying tournament for players in the region if they want to compete at Worlds. Only the highest placing amongst everyone in the event are granted a World Championship invite. With so much riding on this event, you'd imagine that many players would play things by the books and make sure that whatever team they ran was safe and could be piloted well enough to secure that invite. Scraggy got 2nd place at this tournament. And what's worse is they were 100% cooking. Scraggy is a legitimate Pokemon in the Regulation I metagame of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This metagame allows for the use of 2 restricted legendary Pokemon. Due to this, the format is home to only the hardest of hitters. We're talking Miraidon, Koraidon, Calyrex, Kyogre, the whole shebang. With such a high power level, what was actually going through the mind of the player who ran Scraggy? Well, this format was dominated by 3 different Pokemon that all shared the exact same speed stat. Calyrex Ice, Ursaluna, and Iron Hands all typically ran minimum speed, meaning they were known as the 49ers. I'm not joking, that's legitimately what we called them. Clearly, Scraggy was playing for the Chiefs this year because it was a decent counter to all three of them, while also technically helping out a couple on its own team. Not only did Scraggy have access to Intimidate and decent defenses off of Eviolite, but it boasted the moveset of Fake Out, Coaching, Endeavor, and Foul Play, all while having a speed stat of 47, meaning Scraggy could move before all these Pokemon if Trick Room was active, which is typically where these Pokemon like to play. Scraggy could Intimidate and Fake Out on lead to allow Calyrex to set up Trick Room more easily. Then, by underspeeding its own partner Calyrex and Iron Hands, it can use Coaching to boost their attack and defense stats before they attack. And thanks to Scraggy's super low HP, it's able to consistently use Endeavor to cut its opponent's HP and score easier KOs. Scraggy was legitimately a useful Pokemon in a format filled with powerhouses and legendaries. It just goes to show that if a Pokemon can fill a niche, and that niche is actually useful, basically anything can work. Anyways, that was just a really quick video talking about some cool niche Pokemon that have seen usage. There's plenty more I can talk about in future videos, to the point where I can definitely make this into a series, so leave suggestions on Pokemon to cover in the comment section. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. It'd mean the world to me. If you want to support me further, you can check out my Patreon page or become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button below the video. This gets you sneak peeks at future videos, access to bonus content, and access to my supporter-only Discord server, where you can hang out and team build with other community members. You also see your name at the end of all my videos, like all these lovely people. Special thanks to my most boosted supporters, Avatar67 and Club, for their generous pledges. Another way to support me is to check out all the videos in the playlist on screen right now. I know you'll find something in there that you'll enjoy. I also have a second channel where I talk about the current VGC metagame trends, and a new TCG channel where I'm playing a lot of Pocket these days, both of which will be in the description. With that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.